G'day Bomber fans. The other day the All-Australian selectors had a little meeting in regards to the All-Australian team. They chatted about who they are thinking about, who could be in the All-Australian squad at the end of the year. There is still half a season to go, but it's very interesting to see who the people that named the team went and highlighted as potential options in said team. There were some really interesting players named for the Bombers, so I'm going to discuss the 7 Essendon players that are catching the eyes of the All-Australian selectors so far. Let's get into it. Starting with Merrett, who the All-Australian panel seemed to agree was a lock in the primary halfway discussions, and fair enough. Most of the talk so far isn't about whether or not he's going to get in the side, it's about whether or not he will be named captain of the side, which would be a tremendous honour. It's something some of the best captains don't even get to receive in their careers, and now obviously there's a lot of time left, half a season, but Merrett is currently flying. He's had a couple of quiet weeks, but after round 13 he is just 2 votes behind Bontempelli in 6th place for the coaches' votes. He is 5th on the official AFL website's predicted Brownlow tally, and he is more importantly well clear of the rest of the players in the Everything Essendon Player of the Year count, and that's what the panel will be looking for when deciding on All-Australian players, the Everything Essendon Player of the Year award. Obviously lots can change, but Merrett is playing extremely good footy, better than last year I'd say, and he was named in the All-Australian team last year, so logic suggests if he maintains this form he will get another jacket, and if he does it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he is named captain of the side or not. If the team had to be announced right now, I feel like he probably would be. Nic Martin was spoken about a few times in the meeting. He is quite clearly, in many eyes, the premier halfback flanker of the year so far, which is really funny because us fans don't even seem to want him there. Outsiders do seem to love him though. His stats are fantastic. He's averaging almost 30 a game, well over 500 metres gained. That is nuts. And he has been playing really good footy, but if you asked Essendon fans, I don't think we would all say that he is playing All-Australian worthy footy. I personally have players like Max Holmes or Lockie Whitfield ahead of Martin. That's just me personally. You guys might disagree. There's also Jordan Clark who's in contention, even someone like Dane Zorko who the panel seem to really like as well. So it's not like Martin's going unopposed. He has that company on that halfback flank, but right now he is viewed as one of the leading candidates for the spot in the 22, not even in the squad but in the All-Australian 22. You look at the experts rolling All-Australian teams, Johnson had him in there, the AFL website had him in there I believe. The fact he can be swung forward to hit the scoreboard only improves his case. I definitely don't think he's a lock, but I would be surprised if he regressed and missed a spot in the squad. I think he's set to be rewarded with the minimum of honours that you can get on the night. Now Ben McKay was brushed over in deliberations. Buckley said that he'd been excellent in passing, that's about it, and that's not unreasonable to say. He would have been right up there in the best and fairest count for Essendon until maybe round 8 or 9. He's had a couple of quieter games recently. The one against Ben King springs to mind when he had 4 goals kicked on him, but he's still right up there in the comp for intercept marks, 5th in fact, and that's coming from a few quieter weeks as well. At his best, he is definitely one of the better fullbacks in the league. I don't know about All-Australian squad worthy right now though. Based on the year he is having, I think if he wasn't the high-profile signing that he is, All-Australian selectors wouldn't be talking about him as much. Off the top of my head, I can name a few like Taylor, Pearce, Andrews, Moore, May. Those are some players that I think, or Sam Collins is another one. Those are some players that I think are having a better season than McKay right now, but he is definitely in the boat of players who could easily find their way in the squad or team with a huge second half of the year. Sam Durham, interesting one. Now Buckley in the meeting was talking about Sam Durham. He reluctantly said that Durham wasn't quite All-Australian ready yet. He seems to really like Sam Durham, which is fun, and it's hard not to agree. Durham is very fun and very important to us as a team, but I was honestly pretty shocked he was even mentioned in the meeting, especially when guys like Adam Treloar weren't mentioned. Durham is having a very good season, but even if he was absolutely excelling every single week, his role isn't that All-Australian role. It's kind of like how Matt Rowell last year was the best at his job but didn't get much love. I feel like Durham isn't even the best at his particular job, so I doubt he's going to get love. He needs to have some visibly monster games to be considered. It's similar with Jai Caldwell. We love them both as fans. They're very important to our team, but you wouldn't call either of them superstars. Kyle Langford. The group was pretty iffy about Kyle Langford, which is strange. There was a weird discussion between Buckley and Glenn Jakovic, I think, from memory. I might be wrong, but they were talking about whether or not to include Langford in discussions. I think they said that if they needed to cut players off this initial list of 65 that they were creating, that Langford could be an option to be left out, which I think is just bonkers. This guy is 6th in the Coleman right now, even after a few bad games. It doesn't make sense to leave out one of the most prolific goal kickers in the comp, but while this conversation was going on, there were a few puzzled looks and an audible no heard from Kane Cornes, I think, as Buck suggested to chuck him on the side. So I don't think that these are the views of the whole panel. He was named in the squad last year after a great season, so they're clearly going to consider him again if he keeps performing. He's on track for 50 goals. All right, interesting one here. Andy McGrath. Now, all the talk has been around Nic Martin on the halfback flank, but this panel really seems to love Andy McGrath a lot and had more to say about him than Martin, although this was only a quick meeting that was, I think, edited for TV. Buckley brought McGrath's name up. He said he jumped out of the blocks and that he loves his work. Kane Cornes agreed. He seems to be on the Essendon train right now. Cheers, Volcano. It's interesting, though, that Buckley talked about McGrath as a back pocket that plays his role, because there aren't many players like McGrath in contention for this All-Australian team. That small defender that doesn't roam up the field and do attractive things with ball in hand like Martin. Martin on face value is the obvious choice, but they clearly think that they should reward players of different roles. They said that in the video, so I wouldn't be surprised if McGrath was able to find himself with an All-Australian squad spot. Not in the team, I don't think that's going to happen, but in the extended squad. That is, of course, only if he manages to maintain this form. And finally, Jake Stringer. Kane Cornes again was pushing the case for one of our players. He had to list off some favourable stats to get the others even thinking about Stringer. First few weeks, he was definitely in the team, though. The scoring and impact has slowed down lately, though, which doesn't help. But he is still top 10 in the league for goals scored, a handy amount of goal assists as well. But yeah, I don't think Stringer would be in the squad if they had to pick it now. There are too many good midfielder forwards that would steal spots from him. He just needs to impact more than he already has in the second half of the year. Finish with 40-odd goals, some real big X-Factor games, get more of the pill. I doubt it's going to happen, though. Those were the players that the panel highlighted as All-Australian chances based on the first half of the year. Have they missed anyone out? I don't think so. I mean, they named more than I would have thought. I didn't think they were going to be pondering Durham or McKay or even Stringer right now. I guess it is a very big shortlist, but I think they've missed some big ones out at other clubs like Treloar and Wiedering. I feel like those guys are having much better seasons than Durham and McKay in their position. Ridley would be All-Australian if he wasn't injured for half the season, but you can't get into the side after, what would it be, 13 or 14 games for the year, especially if it was your first jacket. Sam Taylor's been All-Australian before, but last year he played more games than Ridley would this year, and he was unreal when he played, but he didn't get in the team. So I don't actually think these guys got anything wrong in leaving anyone out. I actually think they niced us a bit, so cheers Kane Cornes. But that is that quick little video. Just thought I would update those who weren't aware about the All-Australian deliberations. Pretty interesting that they've given us fans access to this content. I like it. Keep it up, Fox Footy. We'll see who finds their way into the squad later in the year. Until then, cheers for watching, like, subscribe, and go Bombers.